Welcome to Pennsylvania in Focus. I'm Anthony Hinnon, Pennsylvania reporter for the Center Square. Joining me today is the Center Square's Pennsylvania editor, Kristen Smith. Kristen, we've had all sorts of delays and issues within the Pennsylvania legislature for the past year or so. But now it's looking like we have an act of God delaying some legislative work for 2024?
Yes. In the energy world, they would call this a force majeure. Don't quote me on that. But essentially, what has happened here, according to an internal memo that we were given access to, is that there was a roof leak on the top floor of the Capitol that damaged an area above the House chamber floor. This happened at some point last year, it is my understanding. However, it seems that the investigation into how bad this damage was and the eventual repair has to occur in the first 3 months of the new year. And that means that all of the session days that would generally occur in January and February, which, is probably in the neighborhood of 5 to 10, given that they only come in on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and there's holidays in there. Those are not going to be happening in the House until March the 18th. That's significantly late for a voting session to get started. This is not... It's something that I kind of had to pull teeth a little bit to get an answer to. I reached out to House Democrat leadership for information because they are, after all, the ones who set the voting schedule, and didn't really get a clear response. So this is the unofficial, tea that I've been given as far as why it's not happening.
And that seems like a long delay from discovering a leaky roof to actually bothering to fix it, especially with taxpayer money. But this also seems like some curious timing, right? Given that we are back to a 101 split in the House.
Yes. So on background, sources have told me that it's exactly that, a very curious delay with there's a special election coming up this spring. The exact date escapes me. It's a seat that will likely be filled by a new Democrat. However, until that happens, you have an even split in the House, and that means that there is much less wiggle room, even though it was already a one-seat majority. There's much less wiggle room for controversial legislation that perhaps Democrats don't want to become law. I mean, there's talk that there are certain members of their party that would support school vouchers, for example, or, there's other bills, regarding the unfinished code bills and some of the policies there within that Democrats may not like. It's just, I think that based on the conversations I've had with sources, there's a big concern, as there's always been every time we lose a Democrat in the last year and have to have a special election to fill the seat. There seems to be this big concern that it's just too much of a risk to run legislation when they are down to a tied minority. So that no one has said that on the record, that's kind of an inference on this situation, reading between the lines. But for the record, there is a roof leak and they do need to fix it. So take from that situation what you will.
So a long break, and I suppose it should be mentioned how legislators also received a recent pay boost to adjust for the cost of living.
A six-figure salary for our full-time legislature that's going to get the first 3 months of the year off. Now, it wouldn't be fair if I didn't mention the fact that they will do their budget hearings, which is when they get together with each department and probe them about what they want to spend, or what the administration wants to spend in the new year. And kind of as a little bit of a change of pace, the governor's annual budget address, which will be on February 6th, 2024, that's probably going to happen in the main rotunda, or at least session will be convened there instead of in the House chamber, so that they can at least listen to what Shapiro has to say.
Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com. For Kristen Smith, this is Anthony Hinnon. Please subscribe, and thanks for listening.
Knowledge is power, and you deserve to know what happens in your state government. That's why the nonprofit Franklin News Foundation is bringing you straight news journalism through the Center Square, reporting on state authorities and publishing stories that show where your money goes and who spends it. By supporting the Center Square, you can track politicians' use of taxpayer money and demand transparency from elected officials. This is how we can equip everyday Americans to hold their government accountable. Become a supporter of Franklin today at franklinnews.org/donate.